Ashoka the Great is one of the most loved emperors of India, but he wasn't always this way. In fact, his journey from being a vicious killer to becoming a champion of non-violence was nothing short of miraculous, and his deeds still resonate across the world today. Ashoka came to power in the year 268 BC. But before we get into his story, let me ask you guys a question. Why do we love Ashoka so much? Well, for starters, he's credited with spreading Buddhism all over India and beyond. He built stupas and pillars to preserve Buddhist scriptures and sent missionaries all over Asia to preach about Buddha's teachings. His edicts are found all over the Indian subcontinent and even in Afghanistan, where the great king went on missions to convert people to Buddhism. He also improved the lives of ordinary Indians. He reformed the army and civil services, reorganized the economy, and introduced new laws to protect people's rights and property. He built roads, rest houses, and hospitals. He cared for the poor and sick. He even rescued animals from hunters and set them free. For these reasons, history books call him the first emperor to truly care about his people. But there's more to his story. You see, Ashoka didn't just wake up one day and decide to be good. He had a dramatic change of heart after committing terrible atrocities in the Kalinga War. It was the biggest war in his empire, and when his army returned to the capital, they brought with them not loot and treasure, but something far more valuable, a treasure trove of human wisdom. War is usually associated with destruction and death, but the soldiers who returned to Pataliputra were actually alive. This is because they had studied the art of war, not just the battle tactics, but also the strategies of negotiation and diplomacy. They had seen how ordinary men fought and died in the war, so they told the emperor how terrible it felt to take life, and how it made them feel afterwards. These men, who were trained to kill, were now questioning their actions. Can you imagine the impact this would have on someone like Ashoka, who was fond of hunting and considered himself invincible? The soldiers also spoke about the bravery and compassion shown by the common people of Kalinga. Many had surrendered without putting up a fight, while others kept fighting even after their king was dead. They had put down their weapons, but picked up the bows and arrows to defend themselves. The sight of women protecting their children and elderly from the invading army stirred something in the soldiers. They told the emperor about a mother who, rather than let her son go to war, jumped into the battlefield and embraced him, embracing death. Then there was an old man who, instead of fleeing, asked the soldiers to stay back, so that he could tell them the story of his life. The soldiers returned deeply affected by what they had seen and heard. But it wasn't just the soldiers who impressed Ashoka. Even the defeated king of Kalinga tried to win him over without resorting to treachery or deceit. The real reason why Ashoka became the greatest emperor of India was because of the values that his father and grandfather had inculcated in him. While most kings indulge in lust and greed, Ashoka's family taught him to value truth, kindness, and courage. His grandfather, Emperor Chandragupta, laid down the foundation of the Mauryan Empire and taught his grandson that wealth is measured not just in terms of gold and jewels, but also in terms of knowledge and wisdom. Ashoka's father, Bindusara, was a strict vegetarian and animal rights activist. When Bindusara fell ill, he summoned his royal physician and told him to find out if there was a way to reduce the number of animals killed in the kingdom. After much deliberation, the doctor suggested that every official should have a seal stamped on it, "Do not kill." Emperor Bindu then presented this seal to his son, asking him to use it whenever he goes hunting. When Ashoka ascended to the throne, he continued this tradition. But it was during his 14th year as emperor that he went to the Takshashila city, probably the oldest planned city in the world. It was located in modern-day Pakistan, and it was here that Ashoka witnessed the effects of war on civilians. It was a massacre. The survivors were traumatized. Their eyes held the haunting memory of the horrors they had witnessed. Women had lost their husbands and children. The elderly had lost their sons and daughters. And all they wanted was peace. When Ashoka saw this, he was heartbroken. What was he ruling for? He wondered, if not for the happiness of his people. Right then and there, he decided to bring about positive changes in his kingdom. He abolished cruel punishments and created a new penal code based on the concept of rehabilitation. He reduced taxes and distributed the wealth among the poor and the hungry. But it was after the Kalinga War that he underwent a profound transformation. After winning the war, Ashoka convened a meeting of all the chief ministers and asked them what they had achieved. Each minister bragged about the riches and territories they had acquired. But Ashoka interrupted them and said, "What did we gain by conquering Kalinga? Look at the state of our soldiers. They have become indifferent to taking life. Have we not sown the seeds of violence in our subjects? How can such acts ever be called righteous?" His ministers argued that war was necessary to expand the empire and protect its people. To this, Ashoka replied, "Is the empire merely an accumulation of land and subjects? Is the duty of a ruler merely to increase his own power? What is the purpose of all this? If he does not use his strength to protect his people, then what is the use of having an empire?" The ministers had no answer. They had lived pampered lives in the capital, far away from the pain and suffering of ordinary Indians. Ashoka realized that none of them understood what it meant to rule. So he dismissed them all and took charge of the administration himself. He knew that for any of his reforms to succeed, he would need the support of his people, so he left the capital and went to live among his subjects. He stayed in villages and small towns. He traveled on foot and observed how people lived. He interacted with farmers, laborers, merchants, and artisans. He listened to their problems and found ways to solve them. Soon he won the hearts of ordinary Indians. They loved him for his humility, sincerity, and concern for their welfare. He then launched a series of public works projects to improve their lives, including the construction of roads, irrigation canals, and public baths. He reorganized the postal system and appointed officials to look after the welfare of travelers. He set up a vast network of spies to keep an eye on corrupt officials and ensure the safety of travelers. He founded 8 new cities and made sure they were well planned with wide streets, public buildings, and green spaces. He even introduced a new unit of measurement to make sure that everyone was treated fairly. He also set up a separate department to look after the welfare of animals. Every 5th official in every province was supposed to look after the needs of animals, making sure they had enough water to drink and fodder to eat. Animals were also prohibited from being overloaded or abused in any way. Those who violated these rules were heavily fined. Ashoka was probably the first emperor to understand the importance of human rights. He made it illegal to imprison anyone without charging them with a crime. He introduced the concept of bail and made sure that the accused were not tortured to extract a confession. He also banned forced labor and made it illegal to confiscate private property without the owner's consent. In short, he turned the Empire of India into a welfare state, which is why he's known as the father of Indian socialism. But what many people don't know is that Ashoka was also a pioneer of environmental protection. Today, we are all aware of the dangers of climate change, but it's only in recent times that governments have started to take action to prevent it. In the 3rd century BC, Ashoka realized that the well-being of his subjects depended on the health of the environment. That's why he passed a series of laws to protect forests and wildlife. Hunting was banned, and so was the killing of any wild animal for food. Fishing was permitted, but only with the use of nets to avoid the killing of aquatic animals. Trees were not to be felled without permission, and those who violated these rules were to be punished severely. To prevent soil erosion, he ordered that no crops be grown on hillsides, and that terraces be built to prevent water from running off fields. He also introduced a system of crop rotation to maintain soil fertility and prevent soil erosion. But perhaps his greatest contribution to environmental protection was the establishment of a separate department to look after the welfare of plants and animals. Today, we have laws to protect the environment, but it wasn't easy to get here, and Ashoka was one of the pioneers of this movement. He showed us that economic growth and environmental protection go hand in hand, and that sustainable development is not just an option, it's a necessity. He ruled for 36 years. From 268 to 232 BC, he was succeeded by his son Kunadana, who proved to be an unworthy heir. His greed and lust led to the decline of the Mauryan Empire, but Ashoka's deeds lived on, inspiring generations of rulers to come. If you want to know more about ancient India, click on this screen to watch another video. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.